Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mindfulness for Creatives Part 3, Being. My name is Susana Prado-Swap, and I am the founder and executive director of Vanguard Culture, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to advancing San Diego's creative industry workforce. This workshop is part of our Forum Professional Development Series, which presents a variety of programs aimed to give creatives the tools and resources to make a living doing what they love. The first two sessions of this series, part 1, the breath, and part 2, the body, are now available on the Vanguard Culture YouTube page. For more information, please visit vanguardculture.org. And thank you for supporting our work. We're so honored to be partnering with mindfulness teacher Wilda Wong on this 3-part series specifically geared toward creative professionals. Throughout the pandemic, creatives have continued to provide inspiring content and programming with limited resources and support. As a gift to humanity, creatives from all industries have stepped up and continued to create beauty despite the stressors of our contemporary world. If you are a creative professional, thank you. You are doing very important work right now. We hope this series will allow you to take a moment today, and as often as you need, to access mindfulness so that you can continue to create and inspire the world with your talents. With that, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Wilda Wong. Wilda is professionally trained and qualified to teach mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR, through the UCSD Center for Mindfulness's Mindfulness-Based Professional Training Institute. She first encountered MBSR in 2015 and credits mindfulness for helping her cultivate a more holistic understanding of her mind, body, and emotions, as well as a deeper empathy, compassion, and gratitude to herself and others. She can be found on Instagram at momenttomoment.co. Thank you so much for being here, Wilda. I will pass the torch over to you. And thank you for leading us in this practice today.
Thank you so much, Susana. It's been such an amazing opportunity to be a part of this series. So thank you so much for the invitation. And thank you everyone for showing up today. Welcome, Dorothy. So if you like, I invite you to lower your gaze or close your eyes if you feel comfortable, and just taking a moment to settle into your body in this moment. Taking perhaps a couple of deep breaths and really experiencing the breath through the nostrils or the mouth, down the lungs, feeling the rising and falling of your chest, and feeling the out breath as you expel your breath through the nostrils or the mouth. So just taking a couple of breaths in this way, really noticing the breath. And taking a moment here too to notice any physical sensations that are arising for you in this moment. Perhaps noticing any tension or discomfort, as well as any ease and comfort in any areas of your body. And recognizing that we are arriving at a brand new moment together. And perhaps taking a moment to notice how you're arriving right now. My invitation for you for today, for this moment, is to simply notice how you are without changing anything. Just honoring whatever physical sensations you're experiencing, honoring any thoughts or emotions that are arising. See if you can allow yourself to befriend whatever is coming up for you without judgment or attaching a story. And then when you're ready, fluttering the eyes open and just taking a moment to notice who is in the room, the Zoom room right now. Just glancing at the faces and names on the screen. Just arriving in this moment together. Welcome. And thank you for being here. So I like to begin, as I have in the past 2 sessions, with a little bit of mindful movement. I think movement is so important for getting the creative juices flowing. And for today, I would like to have us try a little bit of a body scan, a combination of a body scan. So noticing our bodies, just scanning the different parts of our bodies and practicing a little bit of kind of a tensing up and then releasing. So you're welcome to stand for this if you like, or stay seated, or move to the floor and find a lying down position, whatever you think is most supportive for you. And where we'll start with, in a typical MBSR body scan, we start with the feet and the toes. So we'll go ahead and start there. And so my invitation is to perhaps scrunch up your toes, just squeeze them really tightly if you can, if it's not causing you deep pain or discomfort to do so. And just a reminder, anything that I offer is simply a suggestion or an invitation. Please listen to your body for the best kind of wisdom that you have, and find a different kind of movement or modify as needed for yourself today in this moment. But I invite you to scrunch up your toes now and just squeeze the muscles that you can find in your feet, and just squeeze them and hold them really tight, and then letting that go. And then singling out the shin and the calves, the calf muscles here. So isolating those and just squeezing those muscles really tightly, and then letting them go. And moving up to the thighs, squeezing your thigh muscles really tight, just tensing them up as best you can. Noticing your breath, and then letting those muscles go. And see if you can isolate your glutes and tensing up the muscles there, squeezing them really tight, and then letting that go. And same thing with your abdomen and your belly. See if you can squeeze those muscles there in your abdomen, the belly, maybe the lower back. Just tensing that up really, really tightly. And then letting all of that go. And next we can try scrunching up the shoulders up towards the ears, and just squeezing those muscles and squeezing the shoulders up towards the ears, and then letting that go. And tensing up your biceps and your triceps here. Just tensing them up, squeezing them, and then letting them go. Perhaps finding tension in your forearms and your wrists and your hands. So tightening up your fists, scrunching them up, and then letting that all go. And next, I invite you to scrunch up your face too. Just scrunch up your face muscles, your lips, your eyes, your forehead, your cheeks. And then letting everything go. And perhaps taking a moment here to notice what is arising for you in your body. Perhaps any unfamiliar or familiar sensations in this moment. And then for the next few moments, finding movement or stretches that your body is calling for. So maybe your neck is calling for some neck rotations. So just doing anything at your own pace, whatever your body is calling for in this moment. Perhaps it's some shoulder rolls. Perhaps try reaching for your toes if you like, or just letting your upper torso dangle here and letting gravity draw your weight down towards the earth. Perhaps raising your arms up towards the sky and just finding a gentle stretch wherever you are. Just a couple of more moments of your own mindful movement, whatever your body is calling for. And then wherever you are, whether you're lying down or seated or standing, pausing here, and perhaps just choosing one part of your body to focus on in this moment. Just placing your awareness on this one part of your body that you're choosing to focus on. And my invitation is to reflect on how this part of your body helped you in any way today. Perhaps you used your hands to make a meal. Perhaps you used your feet or your legs to go for a walk. Perhaps you used your chest and your lungs to breathe with. Perhaps expressing gratitude for this part of your body for today. It worked hard today. Just thanking it. Then, when you're ready, return to your seats. And you're welcome to turn your cameras on if that's available to you. So, my invitation to you now is to find a supportive posture. Usually, this next practice that I will facilitate is done seated. So you can choose to stay in your seat or find a cushion on the floor. And if you're seated on the floor, just making sure that your hips are above your knees, so supporting your glutes with a cushion or a towel. Finding a supportive and comfortable posture. And if you feel comfortable, feel free to close the eyes or lower the gaze. So, for this practice, my invitation to you is to visualize a mountain, either one that you have seen or one that you create with your imagination. And it can be alone or part of a mountain range. So, this mountain changes, of course, like all things, but it changes slowly in geologic time. So imagine your body becoming like the mountain, grounded, solid, still, letting your legs be the base, the arms and shoulders, the slopes of the mountain, the spine, the axis, and the head, the peak of the mountain. Allowing yourself to become centered, grounded, and present. So visualizing the mountain as the seasons begin to change and watching the seasons flow into each other. In the spring, the snow melting, birds singing, animals returning, wildflowers sprouting and blooming, the mountain streams overflowing with the melting snow. In the summer, the mountain is bathed in light, quiet, solid, majestic. And except for the highest peaks, the snow is gone. In every season, clouds cover the mountain and then blow away. Storms arising suddenly and passing. Seeing the mountain in the fall, surrounded by golden, warm light and brilliant colors. And fall gradually gives way to winter. And the mountain might be hit by intense and violent weather, fog, snow, ice. Noticing how the mountain remains still, quiet, and steady through the storms. And visualize the mountain now through the course of a day, beginning with the rosy hues of dawn, and then the clear light of morning, the deep golden light, and shadows of afternoon. Watching as the day gives way to the rich colors of sunset, and finally to the dark night sky, filled with stars and galaxies, endless space across the cosmos. And in any season, it may find itself at times enshrouded in clouds or fog, or pelted by freezing rain. And people may come to see the mountain and comment on how beautiful it is. None of this matters to the mountain. which remains at all times its essential self. Clouds may come and clouds may go. Tourists may like it or not. The mountain's magnificence and beauty are not changed one bit by whether people see it or not, seen or unseen, in sun or clouds, broiling or frigid, day or night. Through it all, the mountain continues to sit, unmoved by the weather, by what happens on its surface, by the world appearances. It remains its essential self through the seasons, the changing weather, the activity ebbing and flowing on its surface. In the same way as we sit in meditation, we can learn to experience the mountain. We can embody the same central, unwavering stillness and groundedness in the face of everything that changes in our own lives, over seconds, over hours, over years. So imagining now that we're letting go of the mountain and slowly and gently allowing your attention to come back to your body. And just breathing here, noticing your body and the breath. Knowing that the mountain is always there when you need it. And when you're ready, fluttering the eyes open, returning your attention to the screen. I'd like to read you this quote from Wherever You Are, or Wherever You Go, There You Are, book by Jon Kabat-Zinn. The only way you can do anything of value is to have the effort come out of non-doing and to let go of caring whether it will be of use or not. Otherwise, self-involvement and greediness can sneak in and distort your relationship to the work or the work itself, so that it is off in some way, biased, impure, and ultimately not completely satisfying, even if it is good. Good scientists know this mind state and guard against it because it inhibits the creative process and distorts one's ability to see connections clearly. So when we practice mindfulness, we are trying to, well, I shouldn't say we're trying to, but we allow ourselves to perhaps reconnect with our deepest selves, to connect with our most authentic selves. And I believe that's where creativity can really come alive, is when we tap into our most authentic selves. So just letting it be, letting go, being human rather than being a human doing. So that's the kind of theme for today, is being. How do we let ourselves be? And one thing I was thinking about is kind of the contrast between, making art and doing art versus being the art. Like, how do we allow ourselves to be the art? And I think a big part of the creative process is the process itself, perhaps even more important than the results of the process. So, kind of finding joy in the process, finding joy in the creating. And so, for this activity, if you have any scratch paper or a journal or something to write on and with, I invite you to bring that closer to you now. And Susanna, I swear I didn't plan this right before you traveled to Japan, but I wanted to share about an activity or a way of writing called suihitsu, which is a Japanese word. And I'm sorry for butchering that word. I do not speak Japanese, so I'm fairly certain I'm not saying that very well, but it literally means running brush. And so when we allow ourselves to kind of enter into the stream of consciousness of writing, it's sort of like a running brush. And this was exemplified by a writer named Sai Shonagon, who wrote The Pillow Book. I think it got made into a movie a number of years ago. And it was then much, much later popularized in the US by American poet named Kimiko Han. And so Sai Shonagon wrote about her days as a courtesan, I think was her role. So she wrote about her experiences in the royal environment that she lived in and worked in. And so I'll read you this kind of definition of suihitsu. Neither poetry nor prose, it is a generous container for fragmentary observations, a mode that some might categorize as prose poem or lyric essay. Kimiko Han likens it to fungus, which is neither animal nor plant. It is a species unto its own. So my invitation now is to take a little bit of time to perhaps jot down any words or paragraphs or anything into your journal or scratch paper. And it can be as simple as a grocery list. You know, what do you need to get from the store this week? It could be things you need to pack for a trip, just random, just getting thoughts out from your mind and onto paper. Or you could perhaps start writing, if you have a lot to say and you want to start writing some prose, feeling free to do that. And there are very few rules with this. So you might even switch back and forth between single words to a paragraph to fragmented lines, whatever you feel inspired to do in this moment. And I'll give us about maybe about 10 minutes to do this. So I'll keep time, but for the next few moments, just jotting down what is in your mind, what you're thinking of, how you're feeling. Maybe you can even talk about any physical sensations you experienced in our mindful movement practice, anything that's coming to mind. Okay. 2 more minutes. Okay, take a moment to wrap up whatever thought or phrase you're in. And I would love to hear from anyone who wants to share your experience of writing this Suihitsu. How was that for you? What came up? What did you notice?
For me, it was just being intentional about putting something on paper, but not judging whatever comes out, just, and it was interesting to sort of see my psyche, my subconscious or something, what all the thoughts that came out are related one to the other, but not as a whole. If that makes sense. Just linearly they're connected, but not as a whole. So I thought interesting exercise.
Anyone else like to share?
Looking back at mine, it's all over the place. And that's quite a reflection of what goes on in here. And part of why I'm here.
Yeah.
I was impressed by the mountain. So I wrote something about the mountain. Yeah.
Nice.
Because I usually do that with a tree, with rooted. That's what helps me a lot. And has helped me in the past, really, to overcome so many different situations. Yeah, tough times. So the tree, rooted tree. But the mountain is also excellent because it's less affected by external forces. The mountain is also affected by external forces, yes? But, the core is there. It can have all kinds of, problems. So yeah, that's why. Sorry, I wrote something on it.
Yeah. Anyone else wants to share?
I had this sense of like pressure of having to like put something down. And then I just started writing about that. And as soon as I started writing about that, it kind of eased.
How did you notice the pressure in your body? Did you experience it in a specific part in your body?
I think initially it was kind of just this freeze, just kind of like all systems were sort of shutting down. And then it was just put pen to paper, Melissa, just write a word. And then the first word was fear, and then pressure. And then as soon as I got into that, I got into a flow.
Thanks for sharing. And Rox, you had put ease. Do you mind me asking, where did you experience that ease in your body?
Sure. I noticed that I felt very supported by being on the floor on my yoga mat, which I rarely use. So I'm not used to being on a mat or on the floor of my bedroom. And I felt supported and kind of little pressure. It took maybe 30 seconds to a minute or more for something for me to write to arrive, and I was like okay with that. I was just like kind of sitting, feeling supported and waiting for something to come to me, and then it did, and then it was flowing for a bit, and then I felt done, and then you mentioned we had 2 more minutes, so I was just waiting, and then more came to me. And then you called time and I wrapped it up, and I was like, oh, that was easy. Very, felt nice.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Thais, did you want to share your experience too?
Yeah, I've done a similar exercise. I don't know if you've heard of Julia Cameron, but she has these morning pages, and it's kind of a similar free flow of writing, and I absolutely love it. Like I can be a real perfectionist, and so it's helped me with just flowing through it, and also just like one of the best forms of therapy, that I've experienced. And I've done like a few kinds, but and I just today, like I really enjoyed several of the exercises, well, all the exercises in their own way, like the making friends with thoughts, and it was really nice because it was, like one thing in particular has been going through my head a lot, and subject, whatever. And instead of like being annoyed or resentful or whatever of it, being there, it was like recognizing it for what it's trying to do to help me and those I love, in my life. So it was kind of a nice thing to make friends with, I thought. And then like thanking the body, area or part. Like today, I kind of opened up my shoulders and chest, and today, like I kind of shared something or some things that were important to me. And so it was like, thanking what my heart, chest, voice for speaking up for that, I guess. And the mountain too, I found to be such a beautiful like symbol that I'm going to come back to a lot, so yeah, thank you for all of it. They're all things that all the days have been really, really special, and nice to come back to, myself and other people going, doing similar work. So thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for sharing what came up for you during this writing exercise. And as Shelley noted, it's very different experiences with the same prompt, so I do think that the collective practice is so powerful because we get to learn from one another in this way. And to kind of put all of this together, we've now, many of you have shown up for all 3 sessions. This idea of interrupting the autopilot, right? Like perhaps you don't often sit down and just write stream of consciousness of what's going on in your mind and body. So finding a moment to kind of notice that, finding a way to interrupt the autopilot in your day, that could help perhaps tap into a different side of yourself, right? Creating that spaciousness through mindfulness practice, really cultivating awareness and mindfulness in our daily actions. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You don't have to go on a fancy week-long retreat in Bali in order to experience what we just experienced together in this Zoom space at home. And trusting our gut, trusting our intuition, allowing for what is to arise, and really listening to our internal wisdom. So when we practice mindful movement, listening to what our body is calling for, when we sit down to just kind of, practice mindfulness or meditation, just allowing whatever to come up without judging it. So there's a lot of wisdom in just allowing what is to be. And for this invitation, you're welcome to join me. You don't have to, but I invite you to crumple up that piece of paper that you just wrote. Just crumple it up. And again, it's the act is the art. The process is the art. We are the art. I don't know that we need to hold on to the words that we just put down on a page in order to feel like we're creating, that we're creative, that we're artists. I think all of us are artists. I call my cat an artist because he finds random objects and plays with them. And, he just has so much fun with found objects. He's an artist. So for this next brief practice, I invite you to, once again, find a supportive posture. And you can stay seated. It'll be a brief practice. And gently closing the eyes if you feel comfortable, or lowering your gaze. So allowing yourself to settle into your chosen position. And if you like, putting a hand over your heart or another location that is soothing, as a reminder to bring not only awareness, but loving awareness to our experience and to ourselves. And I invite you to bring to mind a person or other living being who naturally makes you smile. Someone with whom you have an easy, uncomplicated relationship. And this could be a child or a grandparent, an animal, whomever naturally brings happiness to your heart. So really letting yourself feel what it's like to be in this being's presence. Just allowing yourself to enjoy the good company. And with a vivid image of this being in your mind's eye, recognizing how much this being wishes to be happy and free from suffering, just like you and every other living being. And repeating softly and gently to yourselves or out loud, feeling the importance of your words. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. And twice more. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Now letting go of this image of the being and perhaps thanking them for showing up before moving on. And then letting the full focus of your attention rest directly on yourself. If you have a hand over your heart or elsewhere, feeling the warmth and gentle pressure of your hands on your body, and visualizing your entire body in your mind's eye, and offer yourself the following phrases. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. Twice more. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. And now expanding your awareness to perhaps people in your home, people on your streets, people in your neighborhood, all the living beings in your city or town or your state, in this country, all the living beings across the world and in the universe, offering all of them the following phrases. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. And twice more. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. And taking a moment now to notice any sensations or thoughts or feelings that are arising for you in this moment. And if you wish, gently letting your hand go. And when you're ready, fluttering the eyes open. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll put some links in the chat related to today. Thank you for joining us for Mindfulness for Creatives for this series, for showing up. I'm so grateful for your presence. Feel free to reach out to me at the email I posted in the chat. If you have any questions or comments, I welcome your feedback as well as we develop the series. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. I put some information in the chat as well. We have lots of professional development opportunities, both in technique, in spirit, in mindfulness, and professional development, how to make a living doing what you love. Thank you again and be well.